Hello, everyone. Today, the topic I want to expand on is building on-chain games for masses, 12 lessons I've learned. But first of all, who is this guy talking to you from the stage? My name is Daniel, nice to meet you. And I want to share some fun facts about me, crypto, and games. I was studying information security in university, and one day at a crypto conference, I won the prize, 1 Bitcoin. And for the student, it was a huge amount of money, around 100 bucks. And the very next day, I spent it all on a good restaurant. Yeah, I may not have been a good investor, but I was definitely a solid Dota 2 player. Yeah, I spent a lot of years playing the games. But don't worry, I'm not just a gamer and failed crypto investor. Let me share my latest success with Solo Hacking Fuel Network in the hackathon with the prize pool around $1 million. I love code and coding, and today I live in the dream that probably many IT engineers have. Founded the game studio and named it Evolute. Today I don't want to dive deep into technicalities, but rather share some of my stories and my modest experience with Web3 gaming and thoughts about its future. I've organized these insights in 12 lessons to reference the book 12 Rules for Life from G.B. Peterson. And I hope you'll enjoy following my character's journey from level 1 to level 30. In my first year of studying information security, I understood that university becomes boring, and I started looking for a job. That time I liked two things, games and programming. And after receiving my first rejection from Game Studio, I decided to try my luck in web development. I spent years building a solid software engineer career, but I almost missed the rise of crypto and Web3. But I always knew that crypto is the future, especially after that 1 Bitcoin dinner. So it was the first lesson I learned. Always trust your gut feeling. I've joined a Web3 venture studio and started doing a lot of progress in Polkadot ecosystem. We built a lot of infrastructure for dApps and for smart contracts. And around the time, the word metaverse suddenly popped up, and everywhere and everyone started talking about it, especially after Zuckerberg decided to rebrand his entire company. And I remember how I was impressed by the idea of infinite number of worlds connected in one universe. And the idea of bringing Web3 and games suddenly struck me as a perfect match. Those days, I met my friend Ilya, who came to our venture studio with his metaverse project called Asylum. And I was intrigued by the idea of NFTs that can be in-game items and can be used in different games. We easily received the grant from Web3 Foundation and started quickly crafting our prototype. Technically, the idea seemed perfect to us. Assets, along with the game code, were stored on-chain. We used the trusted execution environment as a dedicated servers to host our PvP sessions. And we even invented the protocol for NFTs, which have lots of interpretations and can be used in different contexts in any game. We spent so much time tailoring our idea to fit the grant application that almost forgot why we started in the first place. We always wanted to make fun games that people play. And in the end, we ran out of budget and failed to find customers for our idea. And I've learned few lessons from this unsuccessful startup. You should never do the things to satisfy any grant or accelerated commissions. You're just spending money of time. Do only things that correspond to your vision. And if you're at the very beginning, don't build too complex stuff. Try to iterate. It's better to battle test your ideas. But it wasn't only our metaverse project that failed. There were huge expectations from Meta Horizon World and ton of investments. Can you imagine 36 billions of dollars they paid just for 900 daily active users? So why did they fail? Gamers were arguing a lot about Meta, ton of technical issues and bugs. You remember those freaky avatars? And the biggest problem was lacking of the good content. Despite the initial interest to Decentraland and the sandbox, they have the same issues with the content. And thus, retention results into low daily and monthly active users. The most famous example, for sure, is Axie Infinity. And one day I did my research on why their economy failed. And here is my list. The project's profitability relied heavily on new players. This is some kind of Ponzi schema. Once new player influx stopped, the game market is collapsed. The game have a very narrow target audience, and supporting its expansion was extremely hard. And the crucial point is that they built an economy which is vulnerable to global economic factors. The good working in-game economy have to be isolated. That means that in-game currency is always a value inside the game, but not separate from the game. Although there were a metaverse project that succeeded, it's Roblox, with its user-generated content and games, and even their internal currency. But they have been growing their audience, their community for many years. So the best way to learn is on other people's mistakes and try not to repeat them. We understand that most of gamers don't need technology and then don't care about the budgets. Gamers need only one thing, it's fun, which some of the examples above are lacking. Another big point is we have to build an isolated in-game economy in our Web3 games. Your assets should always hold a value for players and not rely on cryptocurrency fluctuation. The solution here, and what we do in Evolute, is implementing the game-specific token and pegging the value of this token to the internal game metrics rather than external crypto prices. Armed with this knowledge, together with my partner, we started building a game. And I remembered a ton of books I had read about the game design, and here is my list. The Art of Game Design by Jesse Skell, and my favorite one, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. A very interesting book, very inspiring, that I recommend everyone if you're even not a game designer. We learned a lot about the metrics, how to do the technical launches, CPI, DAU, MAU, RPU, etc. We joined the game camp, and during the series of hackathons and game jams, we finally created our first prototype, gravitation.io. We didn't choose the genre and platform by accident. We wanted to target the largest audience, which is mobile. Hybrid casual is the most popular genre, the most popular growing segment in the market. And we learned that profound metagame is the way to generate players' retention. We decided to present the game at the game conference, and even came up with a competition where we give away the t-shirts with our cyberpunk characters. And the result I couldn't even imagine. We were awarded for the best mobile game on the big stage. The irony was that at that time I thought it was a win. The only thing left is get off the stage and just have time to respond for investor proposals. But I was disappointed the same day, because when we start talking to investors and explaining our Web3 ecosystem, they just turn around and go. This episode taught me two things. Firstly, today you should never sell NFTs to the true gaming community. They will just reject it. There should be at least dozens of good Web3 games to dissipate this flaw created by such games as Axie Infinity. Secondly, you have to seek for right investors and move together with the people who share your ideas and vision. Everything we did for Gravitation.io was on our funds. In a few months, we started to run out of budget. So we decided to try our luck in Singapore on Token 49. What I can say about this event? I was enjoying the city. They are definitely living in the future. But it was a deep bear market, and the sentiment during the small talks was depression. Quite a boring event. We found no investors, so when we come back to Europe, we came to the decision to freeze development and let go of the entire team. Lesson 8. Don't lose hope. After returning from Singapore, my friend decided to focus on another project in DeFi, and I decided to take a rest in Greece. I spent a week with my friend who is working in Celestia, and this was exactly the time they go to mainnet. And I was shocked by the people reaction. The community I thought was asleep is actually alive. My friend told me a lot about modular blockchain and the projects they build in their ecosystem. And I was very enthusiastic about the modular design and red ton of materials. In a couple of months, I was introduced to Scott from Argus Labs, who was building actually the blockchain for games. And I understood that this is exactly what we need for our games. In Evolute, we make competitive games with multiplayer. We want to have each single movement a transaction, and at the same time have a low latency. And this is how Argus addresses this issue. They've built a loop-driven runtime where we can update the game state on each single tick. This is basically how dedicated servers works in real multiplayer games. They have the assurance architecture for balancing the load, they're storing the sessions data on Celestia for the fraud proofs, and as a result, we have 60 to 100 milliseconds network latency for the fully on-chain games, and this number can even be improved. In a while, we created a pool of angels and enlisted support of Santor and Prestar Capital. And it's so wonderful to move with the people who speak the same language as you. And here are a few more lessons that I've learned during dozens of lectures and discussions with the people who actually build Web3 games. Web3 games critically depends on community and retention. In Evolute, we address this by targeting the largest gaming community, who is lovers of casual games. We believe that this huge group can create a great momentum to regain the trust in Web3 games for other players. Secondly, choose the most flexible and extensible blockchain technology and build the games fully on-chain. In Evolute, we're leveraging Argus World Engine, which is designed exactly for building fully on-chain games. We believe that building a sustainable economy is only possible when you save the proof about each single movement of your players on-chain. And the last thing, which is not obvious, is to craft the engagement game, the persistent component of your game from the day one, especially if you're building indie or casual games. In Evolute, we implementing an infinite meta game with a series of seasonal casual games. This creates a deep connection between the player and his character, encouraging them to evolve his character, but not to sell. This is an unfinished story, and we stopped at the interesting part. But we gained a lot of experience and upgraded the level of our character. And I want to finish with the last lessons I gained during this path. There is no right economy model and technology for Web3 games. Experiment, you're doing right. and don't be afraid to be creative. Thank you for attention.